Hi folks, my name is Rawley Brown and I get to perform this edition of Austin Cooks. And today I've chosen to do sauteed venison. Now I know that most of you think that venison is a meat that you have to beat up, marinate, dip it in white wines, vinegars, beers, milks overnight and all these other things, and it simply isn't true. The problem with venison is the people that handle it. The meat itself is really quite tasty. This is the problem right here. You see, this venison has been cleaned by someone else, not by myself. You see all this visceral matter that's left hanging on here? Well, this is like a tendon or a muscle, and when this stuff is cooked, it curls up and draws the meat with it. And this is what ruins venison, and this forces people to overcook it, over-season it, and it's simply not necessary. This stuff can be handled like veal and cooked for a very short time in a skillet with things such as olive oil and other lighter oils, and come out quite tasty. So to begin with, you're going to have to get all the hair, such as this, and other funky gras-du that your hunter buddies or your husband most likely has left on the animal, and clean it up. Now, if you've ever been hunting, you know that you've spent quite a bit of money getting your lease, getting your guns, getting out there, your RVs, away from work, and of course the alienation of your wife. You've already got so much money in this stuff, you shouldn't be worried about hacking some off of it and throwing it away. The price per pound is probably already way up there. So while this may look okay to you, this is totally unacceptable to me. I hear people talk about getting 80 and 90 pounds field-dressed deer, and I just don't believe it. When I get through with the deer, I've got about 20 pounds of meat left, and no more. So the first thing we've got to do is, since this came out of the freezer and we're getting ready for next season, got room in the freezer now, we've got to get all this stuff off. So you see this blue material that I'm removing here is that visceral matter that I was mentioning that just simply ruins the texture of the meat. I'll do more about that later while the stuff's cooking. So if you want to pretend that this is like a cube or a block and just go down each side and go ahead and knock off a good bit as if it was an aged piece of beef, then that's just fine. That's exactly the way you want to think about it. And again, I know it looks like I'm throwing away quite a bit, but the cost we've got in this already, folks, it really doesn't matter. So you want to always use as sharp a knife as possible. Now, one of the reasons why the venison has been prepared improperly anyway is because people tend to use knives like this when they clean the animal. This is no good. This is sufficient. Just a small pocket knife. Take this to Africa. Fillet your pythons with it. Don't take this deer hunting. When you're in the kitchen, of course, get your good sharp knife. Trim all your bad stuff off. Trim it down till it's nice and red and rosy looking. Neighbors are great for giving you improperly cleaned venison. Or if you've got even a fillet knife, this can be similar to filleting a fish. Just get a nice thin piece started and get it cleaned back. And this isn't the easiest thing to do in the world. Fortunately, here today I'm dealing with a back strap, which is of course the choice piece of meat off of venison, excluding the tenderloins, which I prefer even over a back strap. But be that as it may, we will proceed. You can already see, hopefully, a nicer color coming through from underneath what I've trimmed. And I think if you see the percentages of what I'm getting rid of here, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Helps to have as sharp a knife as possible. You may even want to resharpen it while you're doing this. Got some more coming off here. If you'll notice this piece over here, this is typically what you're going to be getting. This kind of stuff must be removed. Very bad clean job. I've got this meat courtesy of Mr. Jack Gilley. I want to thank you for that, Jack. We shot these deer down in Utopia off the Donata Ranch, real famous game ranch. Got a game fence around it. Deer fed daily. Lots of cornfields for them. Oats patches and oat patches and whatnot. So we're starting out with a better animal here than most people get. But nonetheless, this will work on any animal, I insist. Now, if you'll see what's coming out here, I would challenge you to compare this to even the finest veal you can find, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference once it's cleaned down like this. It's just nice, light red meat. You notice how thin I'm slicing it. That's because this stuff isn't going to spin but about 5 to 7 minutes in the skillet. That's all that's necessary. It's not going to curl, it's not going to be strange or weird because we've removed all of the trash from it. So this is basically what we're after here. Nice red lean meat. Like I say, you couldn't find veal that would look this good. It's nice and soft. You don't need to beat this like most people sit there and do this to venison. You don't need to do that. That murders it. You don't need to soak this stuff or saute it in the salad dressings, the buttermilks, the vinegars, the beers. What else do people do to it? Oh, they use marinades of various kinds. For purposes of this recipe, all we need are the following. We need some sea salt. Always use sea salt. Your table salt has got manganese coated around each little flake. That's why it stays in flakes. Your sea salt is going to stay separate and dry as long as you keep it dry. You need black pepper. You need sweet unsalted butter. You don't ever add any more salt than you have to. We need a little olive oil for sauteing our vegetables. Red bell pepper, red onion, some garlic. A little white wine that we're going to throw in the skillet here almost at the last minute. The alcohol will of course cook off. And I like using these little lemon tomatoes here. Little tiny things. I bought these in Luling. Real nice little things. High ratio of rind to seed and the mushy part on the inside. Rather like a Roma. They saute well. What else have we got here? I've also got some fresh thyme. Folks, if you live in Texas, you're missing out if you're not growing your own herbs. As my friend Skinny Lossman says, fresh herbs fit wild game like butt on a commode seat. You've got to dice this stuff up real fine, though, when it's fresh. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with our ingredients here. So once again, you want to always have yourself a nice, clean, good knife. Get the old venison off there so we don't need to pass any flavors on. Here's your fresh thyme, and you've got to take time with this. And as I said, if you live in Texas, we've got rocky soil of about the right pH and texture for growing your parsley, your sage, your rosemary, your thyme, your salmon, your garfunkel, whatever you need. This knife is particularly nice for dicing. And as I say, I sure wouldn't use one of these things. That's a throwaway to me. When you're out killing your deer, which is the most important part, you've got to avoid making that animal suffer. A deer that's aware he's going to die is going to shoot chemicals into the meat that's going to make him taste bad. A good rule of thumb is don't shoot them when their tail's up. We have white-tailed deer here in Texas. The tail always goes up when they're on the run or whenever they're scared or nervous. If at all possible, don't shoot them whenever they've got their tail up. You're going to buy yourself a whole bunch of bad flavors that you don't need. So we want to get this stuff all nice and diced up. We want to do this first since it's the strongest. I want to do your garlic second. I don't know if I mentioned garlic in my recipes. If I did, forgive me. Get this diced up also nice and fine. Just have to spend a little time with it. You want to do your onions third, and then your peppers. You want to put your tomatoes and your wine in last. If you want, you can add some butter to the skillet while you're sauteing it. You do have a risk of getting a little brown from the butter browning or burning. But again, it is a fine thing to saute in. And again, I'm treating this meat like it's something delicate. I'm not over here trying to overkill it with vinegars and beers and other things and overpower the taste of the venison. Venison really has a uniquely nice flavor. So If you can see how fine I've got that diced, I realize that's a small portion, but that's what we're after. Your onion, same thing. You want this stuff cut up real fine. I'm just doing some small portions here for samples. We're going to add this to what we already have on the stove, because this stuff doesn't take long. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Put this off over here. I prefer red onions over white onions for two reasons. I think they're sweeter. They seem to be more aromatic. They taste better sauteed. They add color. People eat with their eyes. It's nice to have some color in food. Same reason with the red bell pepper. You can use the green bell pepper, but the red is a bit sweeter, more colorful. If you've not ever tried red bell peppers with meat, you're really missing out on something. Really adds something. So you want to get these things diced. Proportion-wise, it's going to depend on how much meat you're wanting to cook. Basically, about all you want to do is cover the bottom of the skillet that you've got with the total of your diced herbs. Proportion-wise, you know, you can use your common sense. Once again, if you've prepared this meat right, your recipe isn't that important. You can leave out or add anything as you desire. Some people like to add ginger to this stuff and soy sauce and get crazy with it. That's fine. Feel at home. But you would never want to use more than a couple of pods of garlic, I wouldn't think. More than about half of a red onion, which I'm stepping over the line right about now. Your thyme, you just want to use a small handful. Your lemon peppers, half dozen to about 8 for about this much meat. It may help you to use 2 skillets with this, to go ahead and get your vegetables sauteed, or herbs, I should say. And then add your meat later to a bigger skillet and add a little more butter and olive oil. I've chosen for a side dish tonight simply a sliced avocado. A lot of people tend to put things like wild rice with venison, things that tend towards the more avant side of cookery, and you don't need that. You're already cooking wild game. The idea is to tone it down, make it palatable, so complement it with something that's a little more normal, mainstream, and palatable. Stewed apples and stuff is great with venison, even apple sauce. You want to come out with enough of this stuff that you're going to be able to cover your meat and be able to serve some on it. If you have a little blood that runs into this, if it hasn't been drained properly, that's fine too. It'll just make kind of a little bit of natural gravy stock and add a new dimension to your flavor. Okay, what have we missed? We've got... Alright, once again, you just want to... Olive oil is a neat thing. You don't have to use very much olive oil when you cook. That's one of the reasons why I prefer it. If you can just cover the bottom of your skillet, so I've done with this one, woo, and throw in these ingredients. I'm going to add this to what I've already got going here. Smells good. Cameraman's over here licking his chops. Get these herbs in there. Well, we can come over here to the stove. Got to add a little olive oil. Now, not much. Teaspoonfuls are enough, even too much. A teaspoonful could possibly be too much. Very low heat. Here we go. Use very low heat. Can y'all see the flame? Very low flame. And again, you need your onion and your garlic and your peppers and your natural herbs, your fresh herbs, to cook first. These things need to cook down a little bit and ameliorate a little more. Your lemon tomatoes go in last, and also your white wine is not going to go in until you add this to the meat. The alcohol will of course evaporate. Now, traditional cookery would say that you've got to use red wine with venison, and I don't buy traditional cookery because tradition to me is like whiskers on my grandmother. Now we're going to get back over here and stir this so it doesn't burn. Looks like I need a little more oil. And I'm going to add a little butter now because it's late enough in this that it won't brown too much. That nice unsalted butter. We're going to salt and pepper the meat when we add the herbs to it. Stir this up. Okay, now I'm getting a little thick here. I'm getting a little beyond covering the pan. So I'm going to kick the heat up, but just a hair. Thank God for gas. If you cook on electric stoves, I pity you. Get this stuff going. Going to go ahead. Okay, I think now we can possibly even get away with adding our lemon tomatoes, as I'm starting to see a slight brown color already in here. As I said, these lemon tomatoes have a high proportion of rind to the mushy part that's in the center. I prefer this. I realize that tomatoes these days have been bred to be picked by high-speed farm machinery, and most tomatoes that you buy on the shelves of a store can survive a 20-mile-an-hour impact against the wall, because that's the speed at which they're picked by their pickers. Your car bumper can't survive that. So we might as well take advantage of the fact that we've got heavy rind tomatoes and cook with them such. I've even learned to appreciate the rind over the mush inside. I don't know, I guess I'm weird. That's what my mother tells me anyway. I'm going to cover this for a second. Got another skillet over here. We're going to get our meat ready in. Let me see, what else do I need to do? Get a little sea salt. So I've gotten, what, 3 or 4 pinches here? Not much, not a lot. We don't need a lot. As Shakespeare said, more than a little is by much too much. My black pepper. Now, I haven't found any neat black pepper yet. I'm still running with McCormick's. And that's enough. Kind of toss this around to get it mixed up. Go back here, stir this up some more. Whoa! Smell good, guys? I thought so. Gonna have to beat them off, folks. Now we're getting a little brown here from the butter, but once again, I like what it does. I don't know why. It's like Mickey Mouse, M-I-C-K-E-Y, ask me why. Why? Because we love it. But this is the color we're going to wind up with. Can we get a shot in here? This is the colors we're winding up with. Not too bad of a color. Now let me get this other burner going here. I'm going to melt the plastic. And then we're going to talk a little bit about meat and its texture. Okay, enter the white wine. More olive oil. Again, you don't need much olive oil. Wonderful stuff. Italians are lucky to have it. A little more than that, however. And pat of butter. Let go like so. Alright, we're going to let this get going. I've removed this from this burner. I don't want it to overcook. I'm going to get this ready. Again, we're just trying to cover the bottom of the pan. Not trying to get too much here. Not trying to hide the flavor of the venison. We're trying to complement it. Alright, here we go. Meat in the skillet. Now, sometimes it's nice to be able to lay this stuff out flat and let each piece cook evenly. Since they are sliced so thin, rather than to throw it in a pile, because the pieces of meat will twist and they won't cook right. So I'm going to lay these all flat out in here, nice little medallions. Not going to be in here very long. We're going to set this on and maybe brown it just for a second. Pour our herbs back over the top, cover it, and saute it for just a few minutes. I don't want to pack this too tight. I might be getting over ambitious. I'm going to stop there. Alright, I'm going to put this on now, cover it. I'll cut this off. Smells great. I'm going to cover this. So we're going to take a look back here, see what's going on. Starting to get a little brown. Where's my knife? I need a fork. There we go. Alright, this is the color I'm looking for. Just a real nice light color. Got that butter color to it. Now we're going to turn this over. Takes a little while. We're going to turn each piece of this over. It's worth the effort. We've already spent a fortune on this stuff. Alienated the wife. Raided Billy Bob's freezer next door. Going to just continue to turn this. I'll turn these over. Put it back on the flame. And then it's going to be time to add the herbs and a little wine and just let it go. As I said, this doesn't take long. Okay, everybody, let's turn. Last one to go. There it is. Alright. We've got our on the slob. That's what we're a little bit of red left, but this is what we're after. Just this kind of color, this kind of look. You can see a little pepper in there, not much, not an overkill. Now we want to add our prepared herbs and vegetables here. Spread them all over the top. Add in some nice flavors. This fresh thyme smells wonderful. Like I said, if you folks living in Texas, y'all are missing out if you're not growing your own herbs. They basically are weeds, or no maintenance. You can grow them in pots if you live in the city. Just try and cover this stuff a little bit. And these things have a real strong smell to themselves, but they've been cooked away a little bit, and we're going to use the wine to ameliorate this a little bit. So we can all see that. Look at this. Now, like I said, traditional cookery would say use red wine, but I don't care for traditional cookery. This is what was left on top of my ice box. That's how important these ingredients are. It's a California Sauvignon Blanc. Just need a little bit. Ooh, got heavy there. Get a little bit of that in there. See how much white wine is in there? Not very much. Just enough to roll back from side to side, and that's along with the olive oil and the butter. Now we're going to put this back on the low heat, and we're going to cover it, and we're going to let it go because we've already browned the other side. Now we're just going to let this sit here and cook for just a few minutes. Don't let this cook more than 5 to 7 minutes. We're already pushing 7 minutes. We're tempting fate, folks, so it's time to pull this. And here we are. And what you want to do when you serve this is let this drain a little bit. Had we left some of the stock, some of the blood off the meat in here, it would have been more gravy-like. But as it is now, it's mainly what's left of the wine, which I really don't care for running around on my plate. But as you can see, we're just putting in here in the middle of our avocados and some of the other things that we prepared this dish with. Makes a colorful plate. It's easy. I don't think we spent very much time with this. And some more out here. As I said, a fruit is a nice accompaniment to this. There we go. Get some of the lovely red bell peppers that's cooked in there. The rest of this. And it's nice to have different colored things to garnish your plate with. People eat with their eyes. It's always nice to have colors in your food. Kill the flame before we burn this up, and here we are. Sauteed venison. Thank you.
Stay tuned for the recipe for sauteed venison. 1 pound venison, sea salt to taste, black pepper to taste, 1 tablespoon sweet unsalted butter, 1 teaspoon olive oil, 1/4 red bell pepper diced, 1/2 red onion diced, 1 clove garlic diced, 8 lemon tomatoes, 1 teaspoon thyme diced, 2 tablespoons white wine. Trim hair, fat, tendons, and any other off-colored portions off the venison, leaving only the red meat. Slice into small pieces. Sauteed the diced herbs and vegetables in olive oil in a small pan. Heat olive oil and butter in the pan. Salt and pepper meat. Place meat in the pan and sauteed until lightly browned. Add herbs and wine and saute 5 to 7 minutes.